Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 15 and compare it against the iPhone 14 Pro Max and see which specific iPhone is a better one for you. Now, I will definitely tell you between both these devices, there isn't really a perfect iPhone, but the 14 Pro Max is still the one that is more of a flagship, which has a lot more capability built in than the iPhone 15, and that's just kind of how I've seen it time and time and time again. You are definitely going to be getting a better iPhone in pretty much every single way on the 14 Pro Max than the iPhone 15, but there are a few advantages with something like an iPhone 15, which I still love. I love that iPhone a lot, and I think that is still a very good iPhone too. If you want to pick up either one of these iPhones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both of these iPhones, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which came out in 2022 at the very end of that specific year, on the front had a 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. It's a very good panel. It's dynamic island, very thin bezels for the most part, and it's a very good looking phone. I've personally used this phone and I had a great time with it. There really wasn't too much to complain about here, and there's a lot of cool features with this device as well. For one, you're getting Pro Motion display, which is 120 Hz. The refresh rate on something like an iPhone 14 Pro Max is going to be better than something like the iPhone 15, and that is something that's really cool. Personally, I love that about my iPhone 14 Pro Max. My 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max have that feature too, and it's only been improved with the 14 Pro Max. Even though it's a year old now, it's still a very good panel, and you have an always-on display on that iPhone as well, which is another really cool feature. Not a lot of iPhones have that type of capability, and the 14 Pro Max does have that type of capability, which is honestly very cool. With the iPhone 15, you're getting a smaller 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So it's a little bit smaller, and it's noticeably smaller in the hand for sure. It is a much smaller phone, so do not get it twisted. It's a much smaller phone, and it's getting the same type of structure. So you're still getting a really good display, and it's a dynamic island this year as well. So it's really cool to see the dynamic island coming out for the base iPhones in this specific case as well. A few things to keep in mind. With the iPhone 15, you are missing out on that Pro Motion display. There is not a 120 Hz on the iPhone 15 display, and it's not an always-on display either. So those are two major things to keep in mind there. You're going to be getting an overall better display and better technology on the iPhone 14 Pro Max than the iPhone 15. On the bottom, you're getting a lightning port on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is honestly very, very cool. Having that lightning port is amazing, and I love that type of capability. On the iPhone 15, you're getting that USB Type-C port. That in and of itself is a very, very cool thing, and that's something that I love seeing on my iPhone 15. I've already used the USB-C port a few times, not only to charge it, but like for other accessories I had laying around that I would plug into my MacBook, and it is so nice having that type of capability of plugging in all my other accessories straight into another device. It's amazing. I love it, and I love having that type of capability. It's amazing. Now on the backside of both these phones, a couple of different things going on. So with the iPhone 15, you have a frosted glass back, and the 14 Pro Max also has a frosted glass back. Very, very interesting stuff. Typically, you would have the frosted glass back on the Pro models. This time around, Apple actually ended up bringing it for the base model iPhones as well, which is honestly very cool. Now, in the camera structure, you're getting a dual camera setup on the iPhone 15 and a triple camera setup with a LiDAR sensor on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So that's like another slight difference there. Again, not the biggest difference in the world or like a big deal, but just one of those other things to kind of keep in mind there. Now, on top of that, between both these devices, you're also getting another very interesting thing. So MagSafe capability on both and wireless charging on both and IP certification on both as well. There's definitely a lot of overlap between these types of devices, which is something I like seeing, but I will definitely say on the outside, the 14 Pro Max definitely feels a lot more premium than something like the iPhone 15. That's just kind of how it goes. We've seen this time and time and time again, and this is pretty much no difference in this specific case either. So that pretty much covers it up on the outside. From the camera situation, this is also a slight difference. So with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, we're getting that triple camera setup like I mentioned before, wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto lens. With a phone like the iPhone 15, you're getting only a wide and ultra-wide camera, which is great. Having a wide and ultra-wide camera is still, perfectly fine. But the 14 Pro Max is definitely, I would say, arguably the better camera here in pretty much every single way. So with a device like the iPhone 14 Pro Max, you're getting basically 15x zoom and that ultra-wide camera, which is really nice. You're getting 4K 60 on the front and the back of both these phones, but that is still a really nice type of feature set to have inside of the 14 Pro Max. Even though it's a year old now, it's still a very, very good performing year old phone. And in that camera standpoint, it still holds up the test of time in so many different ways. It's a very good camera. It has a lot of capability, and I would definitely argue that that is probably one of the better phones you could probably purchase even up until this year with that type of camera. Now, with a phone like the iPhone 15, 15, I would still say this is a very good type of camera setup as well. Personally, to me, I look at a phone like the iPhone 15, it still has a very good camera, photos and videos and everything still look amazing, and there's really not a lot to hate on it. Like I mentioned before, you're getting a very, very good camera, and regardless, it's still probably one of the better cameras you can probably purchase as of this day and age. Now, is it perfect? Clearly not. It is not a perfect phone by any means, but it's still a phone that I would recommend people to buy. And between both, I would probably say the 14 Pro Max, to be honest, is probably the better camera here for sure, but still, I look at a device like the iPhone 15, and it's still a very good camera too. Now, moving on to the software longevity, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is probably going to be the phone that you would think wouldn't last as long as the iPhone 15, but that could actually not necessarily be the case. You could actually end up getting a longer lasting phone from neither one of these. They could actually be lasting around the same exact amount of time, which is honestly very interesting because when you purchase a device like the iPhone 14 Pro Max, you're purchasing a device that's already a year old. So you may not even think that a device like the iPhone 15 is going to last the same amount of time, but that could actually technically be true. So that is another one of those things that you have to kind of keep in mind. And the reason they're basically going to be lasting the same amount of time is that they're probably going to be supported with the same exact amount of software, meaning that with these devices, you're really not going to be getting a longer lasting one because both of them have the same chipset. So that's just another one of those things to kind of keep in mind there. And at the end of the day, I think that's honestly a pretty good thing when it comes down to it. So that kind of covers it up from that specific standpoint as well. Now, from the performance side of things, this is also another very, very big difference because you're getting, I'm totally joking, they have the same exact chipset inside. So you're getting the Apple A16 Bionic chip inside of both these devices. And that's something that I actually like a lot between both. And when I'm getting either one of these devices, I want the phone that's going to last the longest amount of time. And you are basically getting that, between both of them, they're both lasting the same amount of time, but the performance is going to be roughly kind of around the same. Now, they both, like I said, had that Apple A16 Bionic chip, and they both had 6 gigabytes of RAM. So no matter what phone you're really going to be getting, you're kind of going to be getting the same type of performance. But the big thing to keep in mind here is that one, you're getting a better performing display on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but you're also going to be getting a better performing, phone overall, probably on the 14 Pro Max in my opinion. But the 15 also has some capability here too. It's a low resolution display, so things may perform a little bit better, in that specific standpoint. But I wouldn't even say that. I think the 14 Pro Max and the 15 are going to be very, very similar across the board, but I still would kind of make the argument that the 14 Pro Max is probably going to be the better performing phone because of that promotion display. Things are going to perform so much better, they're going to feel so much better, and that's probably what I would say from that specific standpoint as well. Now, on top of that, battery life wise, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is stated to be getting better battery life than the 15, so 29 hours of video playback on the 14 Pro Max, the 15 is getting 20 hours of video playback. Slight difference, just one of those things to keep in mind, but you're going to be getting an arguably better battery life in every single way from the 14 Pro Max than the iPhone 15. So that's just like another minor thing to keep in mind. And to be honest, I look at both these devices and I like both of them. There are some advantages this year of going for an iPhone 15 from the 14 Pro Max, USB Type-C, cheaper phone, still maintaining that dynamic island, still getting frosted glass back, some really cool stuff, and same kind of internals for the chipsets in the RAM, which is actually very interesting. The 14 Pro Max though, if you're able to get it in the used market, you could probably purchase it for like around the same price as the 15, and I would just recommend going down that direction. That's what makes sense to me, and that's probably what I'd recommend doing in this specific case. Buy a used 14 Pro Max, and that would probably make sense than the 15 in my opinion. So that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.